Good morning. Well, whose house is a little quieter this weekend because they have a child or two away? A few of you down here. Believe it or not, we've got 11 people, well, we've probably got more than that, but 11 people that are missing from our congregation this morning who are down at our kids camp, Salvation Army kids camp down at Shoalhaven. We've got 8 amazing young kids and 3 leaders having a great time, and they're learning about what it means to be a superhero in God's eyes. It's pretty good, right? 8 young people down having a weekend with Jesus. That's pretty exciting. And we thank Amanda and James and Jordan, who are down there encouraging them to learn about Jesus and to get some sleep and to eat some food and all those important things. And I'm sure we'll hear next week how great that's been. But yeah, good opportunity for our kids this weekend, which is pretty exciting. Well, we've been learning the last few weeks I've been learning a little bit about how hard it is to actually treat people the way Jesus wants us to treat them. Because I think we get into the habit of treating certain people nice, but certain people we just almost give up on. And so I've been encouraged not to give up on people, but to love, to welcome, to forgive everyone, always. And this morning's not any easier, because we're learning this morning about what it means to honour everyone, always. To honour. You know, our culture is not always very good at honouring. We are slow to honour, and we're quick to name and shame. If one thing gets me a bit agitated, it's when the radio or when some of these current affairs program or whatever, they use this phrase, we're going to name and shame people. It's this whole bring people down. And I know that we might sit here and say, well, those people need to admit that they've been wrong, or people need to be pointed out for what they do wrong. But that phrase, name and shame, just gets to me, because it actually gets to the heart of what so many of us are feeling anyway. So many people in our world already feel shame. But we do see moments of honour, don't we, in our nation? And we saw that last weekend. Honour where honour is due. Last weekend, Remembrance Day, we paused to honour those who have gone before us, to honour those who have shown bravery, who've paved the way for our freedom. We honour them for their deeds, for their selflessness. And we should, right? We should honour them. Yes, we should honour them. The Australian War Memorial in Canberra, haven't been there for a long time, but they've got this honour roll, a long series of bronze panels recording the names of 102 or more than 102,000 members of Australian Armed Forces who have died as a result of warlike service or non-warlike service and certain peacetime operations. But they're there on that roll because they're worthy of honour. Our culture says that they've done good, they've served, and they deserve our honour. And we should honour them, should we not? Yes. The culture we live amongst says if you're honourable, if you do honourable deeds, then you deserve honour. But it says if you're not honourable in our eyes, you don't deserve honour. And this is where the Bible and our culture don't agree. We're going to ask ourselves 4 questions this morning. And nothing I say is going to be brand new to you, similar to the last few weeks. They're just hard things that we're reminding ourselves of again. And we're going to ask ourselves 4 questions. I'm going to ask myself 4 questions, invite you to ask yourself these questions as we go. And the first one this morning is, do I honour people in the way that God honours me, or do I honour people in the way that culture honours? When I say culture, I mean the predominant culture of our world, the world in which we live. Because the fact is that God says you're worthy of honour simply because you're his. You know, these words respect and honour, they've kind of become words that we use interchangeably. We use respect and honour as if they're almost the same word. But actually, respect is something that is earned. Normally over time, it comes from forming trust in someone. And we think that they're worthy of respect. But honour is just something we need to give. It's a calling on our lives as Jesus followers to honour in the way that he did, to honour everyone always. We're not to be choosy about who we give honour to. So this morning we're going to look at 3 stories in the Bible to help us understand a little bit more about what honour is and how Jesus honoured people. So we're going to start this morning with Mark chapter 6 verse 1. And this is a story about Jesus. It was his experience of not being honoured. So Mark chapter 6, verse 1. Jesus left there and went to his hometown, accompanied by his disciples. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were amazed. "Where did this man get these things?" they asked. "What's this wisdom that has been given him? And he even does miracles." In other words, they're like, wow, this guy is amazing. His teaching is powerful. His miracles are fantastic. How does he do these things? They're in awe of who he is. And then someone says, verse 3, "Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son? Isn't this the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters the ones just here with us?" And they took offence at him. In other words, isn't this just the ordinary guy that we grew up around? Isn't this Jesus, the kid in the class that was a bit of a know-it-all? Now, isn't this the guy who made your kitchen table last week? Isn't he the ordinary guy that we played with? Isn't he just Jesus that we know? Verse 4, Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honour except in his own town, among his relatives and in his own home. He could not do any miracles there, except lay his hands on a few sick people and heal them." He was amazed at their lack of faith. If you read the chapter just before this, Jesus had just performed 3 amazing miracles. He'd raised a young girl from the dead, he'd healed a demon-possessed man, and he'd healed a woman who had that constant bleeding for years and years, and she just touched his cloak and he was instantly healed. And yet here, in his hometown, where nobody honoured him, no one acknowledged his worth or value, it says he couldn't do any significant miracles. God, the creator of the universe, doesn't say he wouldn't or he was stubborn because they weren't nice to him, but it said he could not. Now, this Greek word, which is translated without honour, you might remember I've talked about this story before, and we're not staying here today, we're moving on. But this word without honour is the Greek word atomos, and it means to dishonour, or really just to treat as common or ordinary. Common or ordinary. And the flip side of this word, the opposite if you like, the word honour, is the word time in the Greek. And it means to value or highly esteem. It means to treat as precious or valuable. It means to ascribe worth. It's about knowing something is uncommon or extraordinary. Because we place pretty high value on uncommon, extraordinary things, don't we? But when things are common, we get a bit slack with them. Now, we're friends of a family, and their family's really into soccer, and they have had for a long time a soccer jersey, a Socceroos soccer jersey, and it's just a pretty ordinary jersey. They put it in the wash with their ordinary washing. No doubt they hang it on the line, and at times, you know, it's fallen off the line and got dirty, so you have to wash it again, you know, that sort of feeling. It's just this ordinary jersey. But they also have a Socceroos jersey, which is signed by Tim Cahill. Now, this jersey does not go in the washing machine. This jersey does not get put out on the line. This jersey is going to be even more valuable, I reckon, after next Tuesday when Tim Cahill plays his final game for the Socceroos and he's retired. It's going to go up even more value. But you know what they do with it? They've got it high up on a shelf. It's framed. Nobody touches it. They know that this is worth a lot of money, and more importantly, in their young kids' eyes, it's worth a lot of esteem. It's valuable. That's the difference in these two words. Something that looks the same on the surface. It's a jersey, but we treat one different when it's got a signature on it, don't we? We think it's more valuable. It's much more unique. And how much more do you think God, who has created us in his image, puts value and places honour on us? But sometimes we let other people, we let the world, don't we, define us. We let culture determine the attitude about how we should be treated, and also about how we should treat others. Because you see, the world says we must first become honourable in order to be honoured. But God says we're already worthy of honour simply because we belong to him. That is enough. We're made in his image. We carry his signature on our life, if you like. And so does everyone, always. Many of us would be familiar with this second Bible reference I want to refer to today, the story of the prodigal son. And this boy, who was a man, but he was a younger son of this man who had 2 sons, he asked his dad for half of his inheritance, basically saying, "I wish you were dead, I want my money now." He goes off and he squanders it, the Bible says, in wild living. Buys food, has parties, wastes the money, if you like. It runs out, and the land he's in has a famine. And he finds himself there serving pigs and then eating along with the pigs, just their food, their scraps. And so he thinks, you know what? I'm not worthy. I'm not valuable as a son anymore. But the servants back in my father's house, they are treated better than I am. They have a role. They have a job. I'm going to go and I'm going to say to my father, I'm not worthy to be treated like your son, but let me be one of your servants. And most of you would have heard this story before. And so he works out his speech and he starts to return home. And as his father sees him, he runs to him and embraces him. And the son starts, verse 21 in Luke 15. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. The son and his ways were against the ways that the father had told him he should live. And he'd come to believe that in order to receive honour from his father, he needed to be honourable. He needed to do the right things. But we see this father, this Jewish father, run to his son. Now, in this custom, Jewish fathers did not run for any reason, but they certainly didn't run to their dishonourable son. This was an act of shame this man was experiencing in order to show honour to his son. And so the father said to his servant, verse 22, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. You know, the father, he's so focused on what he wants to give to his son, how he wants to honour his son, the fact that it is his son, that he doesn't even really respond to the son's expression of unworthiness. He just heaps the stuff on him. The ring, which signifies that he's worthy as a son. The robe, which shows that he thinks very highly of him. He values him, high esteem. The father honours him and he believes he's worthy, not because of anything that he's done, because he's done nothing right, but because of who he is. But if you've heard this story before, you know that in the background there's this older brother who in the culture's view has been living an honourable life. He's been doing the right things. He knows he deserves to be honoured, but he just doesn't get why the father is honouring this other son who has done nothing right. He's done the opposite of right. We shouldn't be reinforcing that bad behaviour, surely, by throwing him a party. It's really challenging to me, day in, day out, when I live, whether I ever look at other people like the older brother looked at that son. Do I look at other people and in a way choose not to honour them, whether I'm intentionally choosing that or not, because I don't think they deserve it, because I don't think they've done the right thing? Question 2 I'm asking myself this morning, I invite you to ask yourself, do I think some people do not deserve honour? In John 8, we read the story about what's become known as the woman caught in adultery, which actually tells us a little bit about the honour or lack thereof that this woman is given, the fact that we refer to her as the woman caught in adultery. She's defined already in the title by her act. I'm going to read to you from verse 4, John chapter 8. Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say? They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Again, he stooped down and wrote in the ground. She was caught in the act of adultery. She was feeling shame. She was feeling guilt, dishonour, the lack of worth. Mind you, as far as I know, it takes 2 people to be caught in the act of adultery, and yet here we just have the woman. And you know, Jesus, he honours her in his actions. We don't see the word honour here, but we see him working against his culture, which was a culture of shame, doing everything they could to shame someone who'd done the wrong thing. And so this is surprising for those around him in the day. He doesn't bring in the cavalry and declare her punishment. He doesn't take his authority and use it to shame her. He doesn't even declare her punishment or to declare that she's a sinner in front of everyone. He does that at the end. He asks her to sin no more. But in that moment, he shows humility. We don't know what he wrote in the sand, but he didn't shout, he didn't accuse, he didn't judge. He showed value and really diffused the situation from a position of humility, from kneeling down. Jesus doesn't say a lot, but his actions are pretty loud, right? This woman expects to be stoned. The law of Moses said she should be, and so really she should be. But Jesus is letting the woman know that she isn't her sin. Just like everyone else there, that's why he says, let those without sin throw the first stone. And sure enough, one by one they walk away. And Jesus says to her, when they've gone, sin no more. Just like the prodigal, whatever she had done, the scandalous living, the shame, the pain that she's caused herself and others, that is not her. That is not him. That is not you. That is not me. That act doesn't say who they are or who we are or who someone is. That sin is sin. But you, Jesus says, you are mine. You are a child of God. And for that reason and that reason alone, the prodigal, the woman, me, you, everyone, always is worthy of honour. God isn't honouring the noble things that the prodigal son did because there wasn't really any things. He wasn't honouring the act that the woman did. He wasn't saying it was the right thing. It clearly was not. But he honours people as made in God's image, as valuable for that reason. You know, honouring, just like welcoming and loving, is pretty easy for those people who we like or who are like us, who have similar sins as we have. But when the sins are different, when they look different, when they behave different, that is harder. But as people who are worthy because God honours us, we're called to honour everyone, no matter what their sin looks like, because they too are made in God's image. So taking it up a notch, question 3. I'm going to tell you the question and then explain why, because it's a bit of a weird question. Do I outdo others in showing honour? Do I outdo others in showing honour? You know, the Salvation Army has 5 value statements about things that are super important to them, and along with integrity, of them as in us, along with integrity and compassion, diversity, collaboration, up there is respect. And I would argue that it should be honour, but I don't choose the words. But it's respect. And this is what it says in its value statement. It says that we, the Salvation Army, affirm the worth and capacity of all people. We say all people have worth and capacity. Peter says in 1 Peter 2:17 in our Bibles, he says, honour everyone. All people. Everyone. Paul was trying to teach the early church about this, about the importance of showing honour to everyone always. And I love this because I can be a bit competitive, right? Anyone else a bit competitive? Excellent. I can be competitive. And so much of the Bible is about being kind and humble and gentle and loving. So I really like this verse that Paul uses because it's like when he's speaking about honour, he says we should try to make it a bit of a competition. That's what I read anyway. It says you should try to outdo one another in showing honour. Not in gaining honour, not in being honourable by what we do, but in showing honour. Romans 12, verse 10. This is the NLT, and then we'll have a look at the next one straight away. The English Standard Version. This is the version I like. A preacher, I can choose what I like, right? It says, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honour. The truth is, this word outdo does not imply a competition, really. The word actually means go beyond, to go to the next degree. In other words, go beyond what is normal or what we think as being normal. Go beyond what is expected. Go beyond what culture says or what everyone's doing around you. Outdo honour. If we honour those that we think are honourable, then we're doing what the world says. And it's important to honour the honourable. But actually, Jesus says that we're to go beyond this and to honour everyone, always. That's hard, right? Bob Goff, he's an author. He wrote a book called Love, Everyone Always. But he talks about all these different concepts about difficult people. And I've read a little bit, some chapters of that book this week. And so much of it I'm like, yes, they're the people I'm struggling with. So you might want to read it if you're struggling to love, to welcome, to honour people. And he says this. I think the quote's going to come up. There are plenty of people I don't understand. God doesn't see people the way I do, though. That's good, right? The ones I see as problems, God sees as sons and daughters made in his image. The ones I see as difficult, he sees as delightfully different. I wonder if that would help us to see people that we might label as difficult and this week to think they're different. They're different to me. Delightfully different. Maybe you're going to have to convince yourself of that with some people. They're not difficult, they're delightfully different. And so this is our final question this morning to ourselves. Is there anyone in my life who I'm struggling to honour? Is there anyone in my life who I'm struggling to honour? Because the fact is, the things we've spoken about the last few weeks, they're hard. Loving everyone always is hard. Welcoming everyone always is hard. Forgiving everyone always is very hard. Honouring everyone always is hard. It's not easy. It's not something that comes naturally. They're all things that we need God's help with, that we have to persevere with. And so I want to suggest this morning, if there's somebody you're having trouble honouring, or maybe multiple people, can I suggest a two-step process from these stories that we've had a look at this morning? And for me, this applies in my life, and maybe it doesn't apply to you. Maybe you need to ask God for a process that's going to work for you. But for me, I think for some of us, what we need to do first in asking God's help to be honouring is firstly to put down our stone of judgment or of condemnation. Before we can actually do the positive of honouring, maybe we need to stop judging. Put down our stone like the people in the crowd, acknowledging that we too are sinners and yet we're honoured by God. And secondly, maybe as in the story of the prodigal son, we, like the father, rather than the other brother, need to assume a posture of waiting to embrace. Put down the stone, our hands are free, and be ready to embrace those who are difficult or delightfully different in our lives. James 3:17 to 18 says this. Real wisdom, God's wisdom, begins with a holy life and is characterised by getting along with others. It is gentle and reasonable, overflowing with mercy and blessings, not hot one day and cold the next, not two-faced. You can develop a healthy, robust community that lives right with God and enjoys its results only if you do the hard work of getting along with each other, treating each other with dignity and honour. None of us are pretending today that this is easy. Getting along with each other is hard work, but it's something that we can do, and it's something that God asks us as his followers to do. And the ensemble's going to come and we're going to sing the song we sang just before and reflect, reminding ourselves that we're people of God, people that God came to earth for. God showed humility in coming to earth to be with us, to show us how to live. How many times must he have thought of the people around him? You are so delightfully different. How much more can we do that to others? And so we're going to sing this song to remind us about God coming down. Didn't want heaven without us. We don't want this world without every single person made in his image knowing him. And a good place to start is showing honour, putting down those stones of condemnation and being ready to embrace those who may have different lives, different sin than we do. So this morning we're just going to sing, we're going to reflect. Ask yourself those 4 questions. Is there someone that I'm struggling to honour today? Is there someone that I actually, if I was to admit it, don't even think they deserve honour? And in this time, ask God to change your heart, to remind Him who you are and who every single person, everyone always in your world is this morning as we sing. The place of prayer is open. You may want to come and kneel and ask for God's help, or you can stay where you are, but sing and connect with Jesus. Ask Him to change your heart today.